Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hello and welcome wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. This is Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, please click like, subscribe, comment, and also don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today's guest, Chelsea Goucher, an intuitive coach and psychedelic facilitator passionate about consciousness, personal growth, and collective evolution. Through her work at Awakening Chandra, she helps people connect with their inner knowing and live more authentic, vibrant lives. Let's welcome to the seance, Chelsea Goucher.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
How did just before we got on the air, sort of airways, you mentioned you just moved a really big move from Alaska to the intercontinental United States, so to speak.
Yes, correct. Tennessee.
Cool. That must have been an interesting part of the journey. Is this part of the journey that so said that we're going to be getting into and talking about today?
I mean, a little bit in the sense that it's life, it's all part of the journey as I see it. And it's certainly been expansive for me. I was born and raised in Alaska in a small town. And so, I ended up spending most of my life there, which wasn't exactly my plan, but I ended up there after college, got involved in life there. And so really, stepping out and living somewhere else besides my hometown for my first time really in my 30s is really kind of an interesting experience. And so, I'm enjoying it. I love it. It's obviously what I needed, but so yeah, it's all part of the journey. Everything kind of falls together the way it's supposed to. And, I'm learning lessons that other people learned at different times or, it's just, it is what it is. But what took me here was kind of something separate. My partner's job, actually.
Oh, so, there you go.
Yeah. Which, that's part of it too.
Yeah, that's part of the journey. That's part of the journey. That's part of my journey too. It's like, I expect I was much younger. I didn't really have a choice from moving from the north to the south, but it happens. It's some things we can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this Awakening Chandra, this program that you have. Explain this.
Yeah, so Awakening Chandra, that's what I named my business. My business is, right now it's just me. I work as an intuitive coach and psychedelic facilitator. I incorporate into that work a couple other modalities as well, specifically Yoga Nidra. I'm a certified yoga instructor, and Yoga Nidra is something that as I got deeper into yoga, started to explore. And I've really enjoyed studying that modality and then tying it together with, like I said, my coaching background, and then my facilitation work with psychedelics. And so that's what I do at Awakening Chandra. I'm really passionate and motivated to help people live their best lives. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. I feel like that's what we're here for. That ultimately is the goal of this journey that we're on, is to expand ourselves and feel good doing it. And so that's, the journey I'm on. And I just really want to alchemize my experiences and my education and kind of all my growth along the way to help other people that are on the same path as me.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had somebody on the show not too long ago, also from Alaska.
Okay.
Mark Wiseman. You heard of him?
I haven't, but I kind of live under a rock sometimes,
Yeah.
so you'll have to forgive
And
me.
Alaska's pretty big. I mean, people don't realize how big Alaska really
is, but we have so few people that actually, like, asking that question isn't weird for Alaskans. Like, we do that all the time. You meet another Alaskan, like in Texas, and it's like, oh, do you know this person? So, yeah,
right?
Not actually weird.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like in a city sort of, but if you're not in the same city, it's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, before we go further, let me bring up your website here. What can people expect? Where can people find you, and what they can expect when they find you on your website? For those who are watching, it can be screen, but for those who are listening, where can they find you?
Yes, so my website is just awakeningchandra.com. Chandra is spelled Chandra. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's at Awakening Chandra. That's my handle. And kind of what you'll find on my website, you'll just find a breakdown more of the different services I offer, the different modalities, the different ways you can combine them based on what feels good and aligned for you, where you're at on your journey. And then my Instagram is mostly, it's me marketing, of course, but what I really, one of my passions within a passion is writing. And so I really like to share my thoughts about things, my experiences, my personal stories. Like I said, writing is kind of like that art form through which I alchemize my experience and kind of, seek to share my message with people about my own spiritual revelations that I have, as I grow as a person and experience life. And yeah, I mean, that's really what you'll find is a lot of writing there. So I don't know what I'm going to do with all the writing, but something eventually, because I do love writing. Yeah, a book at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. When I went to the website, that was the first thing I start. Normally that's the first thing. If a book is not anywhere in the onboarding form for scheduling for the show, I normally, by habit, I just go, I'm like, okay, I got to look for a book. There's got to be something out there. That's the first thing. I couldn't find one. So I'm like, sometimes they're hidden. There's only on a very few occasions has that happened. But yes, everybody eventually, starts, it's coming. There's a book coming. So, as far as writing, getting all that information and putting it into,
and I love to play with words. I'm a very heady person that way, so I think it's fun to do that. And then, I'm sure we'll talk more about it later in the show, but for me, writing is one of those things that I can really just let it kind of come through me sometimes, and that it feels good to be in that place.
Yeah. Well.
I
use writing as a form of a mediumship. If there's anything that, spirit wants to talk about, wants to say, or I'll just throw it down on paper. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the modalities that you speak of, the modalities that you work with, that people can contact you with. Explain some of the modalities that you work with.
Said the three main kind of frameworks that I work with my clients are yoga nidra, intuitive coaching, and then psychedelics. Intuitive coaching, I use the framework that I learned, from my mentor. And a lot of it starts off with inner child work and kind of just helping the person start to really begin a dialogue with themselves about who they are and what they want.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's really client led based on what they need, kind of the direction they're going. And so it kind of works with some inner archetype things, your highest self, your inner divine feminine, your inner divine masculine. So working with these different energetic archetypes that I feel like are very helpful. You know, the same way more traditional therapists use like the inner family model to kind of help you start to like suss out these different parts of yourself. And so that's kind of how I approach the intuitive coaching piece of it with my clients. And then kind of more in like a one-off fashion or something that can be an add-on to that, I do yoga nidras, which yoga nidra it's the yoga of awakened sleep.
Yeah.
And so it's just a variation of yoga practice that focuses on basically walking your brain through the Panchamaya Kosha, which is like the 5 layers of self according to Sankhya philosophy, which has a lot of it's a lot of what like props up like later yogic philosophic tradition. And so it's really about connecting you to, it's helping you remove the layers of self. So your physical self, you know, you have your mental self, your emotional self, your energetic self, and then ultimately your blissful self, so that you have these different layers. And so yoga nidra is like a form of guided meditation, but it's very deliberate and scientific, as yoga would describe itself as, in how it, you know, walks your brain through these different brainwave, you know, aspects basically, until you get to this very deep presence where the goal is to be conscious of the unconscious. Yeah. And so when you're there in that deep place, you're able to work with your samskaras, which are like mental ruts, grooves that are like in your energy, in your field, in your mind, things that, you know, it's your karma, just things that are like really deeply rooted. And so you can work with those things when you're in that deeper mind state. And so that's the goal of yoga nidra. And it's really fun. Yoga nidra is fun for me as a facilitator because, you know, the way it walks your brain through those different aspects is, you know, you start by doing some yoga asanas, like, you know, calm down your body. Then you do a little bit of like breath work to kind of calm your prana. And then you do, you know, mental exercises to kind of get your mind focused, like more traditional guided meditation would. And then you go into this like visualization part where you basically get taken on like a guided journey. And so it's really fun to write those, because you can write those too, you know, according to different themes, and you can insert in them, you know, again, like those archetypes, that symbolism, different things that your brain like is resonating with on a deeper level, even if you're not aware of it. And so the whole process is really fun. So that's yoga nidra. Wow. And then the third thing that I really wanted to talk about was psychedelics. I work with psilocybin specifically, and you know, that's again a whole nother conversation. But they're just, it's a, you know, plant medicine. It's like very popular right now, and you know, I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things about it. I'm sure you can ask me if you're curious. But at the end of the day, I think that it's one of the most powerful tools that we have. It's a gift as I see it. And it can really, really accelerate someone's consciousness expansion by giving them access to things that sometimes there's just so many walls up, it's hard for them to get through. So like something like yoga nidra or the intuitive coaching, it takes a little bit more, you know, it takes a lot to really break through. Sometimes people have quantum leaps too, but psychedelics can really accelerate that. You know, they can really give you access to ways of being that like once you see them you can't unsee. and then kind of my thing that, like, you know, I like to go on my soapbox a little bit with it is like, then it's the integration. And that's why I think like having a guide is important, and having someone that can help you on the back end, because it's like you have a peak experience and then you come back to your daily life and there's like contrast, and that can sometimes be more
very
frustrating.
overwhelming.
Right. So it's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So those are the main modalities I work with.
Yeah, it seems like when you first started explaining about the yoga nidra, that sounded, it almost threw me back into a memory of ayahuasca.
Okay.
And it was like, whoa, that seems like a trip and a trip and a half without the plant medicine.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I do have experience with the psilocybin and obviously the ayahuasca. So yeah, it can be. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody, and
It's not.
And I really think I didn't think it was for me. I mean, I knew a shaman for quite some time trying to get me because of the work I've been doing. It's like, you
Yeah.
gotta try it. It'll open you up. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I am open. I mean, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. I wouldn't say corrected, but yes, in lack of a better word, it corrected and realigned portions of my field in ways that I wasn't even aware of until later on in time. And
yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah, it's pretty amazing, and it's very powerful. I mean, that's cool that you were willing to do it, even though you felt like you didn't need it. Because I don't think anyone needs it. I think that you can have, I had a discussion actually with my, my guru who I got my yoga teacher training from. He talked about psychedelics, and he was like, I don't need it. I don't want it, and he was old school. I had a very traditional yogic training, which I appreciate, but also I could completely appreciate his point of view. He's like, he's like, I'm good. He has his connection. And that's my thing. Everyone's on their own path. Ultimately, I believe to the same thing. And I think there are so many different ways you can get there.
Yeah.
That being said, plant medicine, I think, is special for the fact that it can really but like it puts the person in a position of receiving something, whether they want it or not.
Yeah.
Especially
when somebody's open to it. Like initially, when somebody's open to it, and especially if there's bigger issues that are really, really in the foreground, meaning addictions, abuse, certain things like that, where it's like, okay, my life is incredibly crazy, and I need a way to realign myself. Then,
absolutely.
And
and one of the things that makes it interesting, and where it kind of like with psychedelics, how my understanding of psychedelics helped strengthen my understanding of yoga nidra and vice versa, is like psychedelics, like really what they're doing is they're causing this like temporary, not like complete shutdown, but like your brain's default mode network kind of is turned off. And so your default mode network, it's like this grouping of neural pathways that science has like pretty recently kind of started to observe, like in the last several decades. And it's kind of the series of pathways that connect your decision making, your rational, your logic, your, that prefrontal cortex with your limbic system, with your memories.
Yeah.
And so the way scientists are observing this, they're kind of starting to recognize like, oh, maybe like these are the neural pathways that are responsible for like the ego. Like it's this feedback circuit that's like telling us our story about like who we are, where we've been, and like how that's affecting our decisions right now. And so psychedelics turn that off. And so a really great book that like dives into this is Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind. And he uses this like analogy or metaphor, whatever you want to call it, that I felt like really describes it well, where he's like, if your default mode network is like the interstate highway of your brain, and that's like where the information is going all the time, it's like those circuits. It's like psychedelics turn that off, and it's like it forces the back roads to be the channels that, where the information is and the communication is happening within your brain itself. And so, that people just have breakthroughs because their brain is physically working a different way. And that default mode network, that ego construct, is actually very tied to what you mentioned: addiction, anxiety, depression. Those kind of like social diseases are like a lot of them very tied up in ego and like in what we believe about ourselves. And I believe that they're absolutely able to be overcome. Again, you don't need psychedelics to overcome them, but it can really help people, like what you said.
Yeah, it helps break down that wall that
Mm-hmm.
they can't see that they're behind, but it makes it a lot. Oh no, it what's the better word of saying it? It's not a crutch, but it's like a it's like the hall pass or the special secret code to get across the bridge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, because I feel like, you know, I feel like so much of consciousness expansion, so much of the spiritual journey, there is, I think, a lot of truth and root in the fact that, like, it requires faith. It requires faith in the unseen,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, you have to decide to believe that there must be more than meets the eye, or you're never going to actually come into contact that which doesn't meet the eye, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's a certain, like, willingness you have to, like, even really embark on the journey. And I feel like thinking about psychedelics as like a hall pass, you know, it goes back to what I said. It shows you something and then you, like, can't unsee it. But once you've seen it, then you have enough to be like, well, that was real. That was my experience. So if that was real, then how do I find my way back to that? And what else could be real? And what else could be real for me? So yeah, I like that. The hall pass thing. It's like a little glimpse behind the curtain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's trapped in the classroom trying to learn and being taught or leading this straight and narrow path. But what's going out there outside of the classroom, nobody's supposed to know that. Nobody's
Right.
supposed to know
Right.
what's going on out there.
Yeah.
You're given that pass, and it's like, okay, you can take a quick trip to wherever.
Right. Right.
And I like when you mentioned that the multiple different modalities and how you can use them in. You can either just use one depending on the client, or multiple ones, 1, 2, 3, however many. I like how I like how you do that, because I've done that in the past as well, depending on the client. Like I'll do a reading on somebody, and it's like I'll start with the energetic reading, like just a general mediumship, see what I pick up, see, connect with them energetically. And then I'll use certain tools. I'll use certain modality. I'll either use like an oracle deck, a pendulum, palm reading, or I'll pick up multiple different sets of oracle cards. I got one for like food. I got one for like ascended masters. I got one for, I'll get all different types of things.
Yeah.
Because and that's the thing too. It's like, depending on the individual, has certain information will come through. Like, oh wait, you need to go. Let's use this and see what we can pick up with this type of modality. What's your experience with that, and kind of like the workflow? Give us an example of a particular patient without giving too much information away, but by using different modalities.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of depends. Like I said, with most people, I like to start with the coaching, with like the intuitive coaching part, really connect, like grounding it into themselves, into their own experience, and letting them, oftentimes get through the part of like really wanting to just like share everything that's going on in their life, everything that's happened. You know what I mean? Like people need to get that stuff off their chest.
Yeah.
And
the integration part.
Yeah. And, you learn a lot about the client, going through that process with them. And then I feel like you can kind of, guide them into like, maybe they would add a yoga nidra in if there's something like really specific they want to work on. But then I would include with that like homework for them, around whatever intention they were setting with the yoga nidra, implanting in that samskara as a replacement for something that was there that they wanted to, get rid of. I would have some kind of journaling or something that would like tie back in with that. So it's kind of like working on that particular problem or affirmation or mindset shift that they are addressing. And then as far as the psychedelics go, that could be something that, I do microdosing with people. And that's like a very subtle way, because there's, microdosing, when it's really done how it's meant to be, it's at such a low, subtle dose that there is no, like, you going about your day, you don't really notice it. But if you're being guided, and again, if you're, journaling every day and kind of being walked through this process of becoming intentional about noticing yourself, you start to notice a lot of things, and you start to notice what's different or how things in your behavior might change from, the days on the protocol when you're using the microdosing versus the days when you're not using it. And then as far as the psychedelics, that, for me, the way I like to do it is that's something that happens, like, it's this in-person, like, ceremonial experience that happens, after I've been working with someone for a while. Or if it's someone that I know I'm familiar with them, sometimes it doesn't have to be such a long period. But I do like to, make sure that there's time on the front end and on the back end for the integration. And on the front end, it's important because it's like, it's like garbage in, garbage out. Again, not saying that you can't have a massive breakthrough on psychedelics completely accidentally, right? Like the psychedelics are the magic. Like they're the ones doing it. You don't need a guide. You don't need someone like me. You really don't. But, set and setting, that's a real thing when it comes to psychedelics. And when you have someone with you that has the experience that can help you set it up, ask yourself the right questions, go in with clarity, I think it's also setting the stage for opportunity to have a really good experience.
Yeah.
So,
especially the first timer. Because somebody who does it for the first time, it's like, no, just you got to prepare them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially too, like in this day and age, like I said, psychedelics have become like kind of trendy, and it's an interesting phenomenon. Again, it's something that like there can be a lot of opinions on it, but at its basis, what it means is that like there's a lot of people interested in this that like maybe weren't before, or maybe were against it, or, had certain feelings about it. And now they're feeling more open-minded because it is becoming more, mainstream approved or whatever, right? For whatever reason. And so, people are coming to it that don't have the history, of a lot of people that are on the spiritual journey. They're like, oh yeah, I experimented with them in college or whatever. So it's like, they don't have the same fears. They kind of get it. They're just like kind of ready to come back and do it version 2.0 more intentionally.
Yeah.
So you have those people, but then you also have the people that are like, I've never done this, but I saw Oprah talking about it. So now I'm interested,
And especially the taboo, especially historically. I mean, historically, there's been a lot of taboo on it going, I know. Well, it's only because it's been misused in the past. I mean, what people recognize it being misused. I mean, MK Ultra, and, all this mind control type stuff. LSD, how that was used. It's been mistreated, misused, and definitely overdone. So, for those who are listening, some who are listening would already know that. Otherwise they wouldn't be listening, chiming into this particular program. But for those who are kind of naive to it, is there regulation out there, and what type of regulation is there when it comes to psychedelics and the distribution of it?
I mean, as far as I know, it's like pretty much completely illegal, most places. I mean, and I just mean like for general use, there's a lot of like ways around it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
like,
a practitioner,
like ayahuasca churches exist, peyote churches exist that are able to get, that recognition by the IRS or whatever. And so then they're allowed to use it. And I know a lot of, I don't know if it's statewide anymore, maybe Oregon, but I know there's several municipalities like Boulder, Colorado, I think is one that have like decriminalized it. And so this is actually a really interesting conversation that, you know, me and some of my colleagues and some of my mentors have had this discussion about, is like, now that it is becoming more mainstream, like, do we want it, you know, legalized? Or would something like decriminalization actually be better because of the way that when something becomes legalized, money enters into the equation in a certain way that may or may not be beneficial, not only for the clients, but for the practitioners themselves. It's like, if it's legalized, then who gets to have it? Is it the people, you know, in the medical field? Because it is being used in more traditional therapeutic settings. It's starting to be used. They're studying it more. Like, there's been this renaissance in like kind of the, you know, standard academic community of work on psychedelics. And so there's starting to be this interest, you know, in people that are traditional doctors and traditional therapists. And so it's like, well, where does that leave people like me and a lot of the people that I work with that are kind of this in between, where we're not necessarily the shamanic practitioners that maybe have the IRS protection, but we're not the people wearing white coats either. And so, you know, it's just, again, it's interesting stuff to ponder, you know, and how would it become corporatized? Like, there's just so many things to think about when you think about legalizing it. But I mean, I think decriminalizing it, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it should definitely be decriminalized.
Yeah, and like what you said before, I mean, a lot of, you know, the negativity around it does come from, you know, the scare tactics. It's like reefer madness, right? You know, it's like a lot of that has been the case of scaring people, because there are bad things that happen. There are the worst case scenarios. There are people that use psychedelics that already have a fragile ego construct. They're schizophrenic. They're
damaging the psychosis even more with it. It's
right. They shouldn't be using it. And so, you know, you hear some horror stories about that, and, you know, they get put out in the press, and that's what the narrative is. And it's pretty easy to scare people. So, you know, it's understandable. It's also not the truth. You know, it's a sliver of the truth. It's a window into the experience that can be very unfortunate, you know, for the wrong people, but that's usually not the case.
I feel it definitely needs to be decriminalized, but it definitely needs to be regulated in a fashion to where we don't want it to be misused. Obviously, because I mean, you can imagine somebody who just takes too much of it and, oh wow, okay, so but it's going to be interesting. Where do you see the future with psychedelics?
I mean, I think it's going to continue to like gain traction. I mean, I think, again, a lot of things, you know, once something does kind of hit that tipping point, and people start to see the change in other people through it, I think people get curious. I mean, I definitely feel like there's some kind of collective awakening happening right now, for sure, right? You know what I mean? Like, I've had my own experience, and like, I'm fully at the point now of being like, I'm not the only one going through this right now, and it seems to be a lot of people, and it seems there's like something going on, in my opinion. And so I think psychedelics is certainly part of that. And so you know, like I said, I think plant medicine in general has so much wisdom for humans. Like I said, it's like a gift. There's something to me, it feels very divinely guided that people would be finding this now, because shifts in consciousness like really are ultimately what I think, you know, humanity needs, you know, because it's really not, once you have a mindset shift and things aren't so binary, and you kind of move into more like Christ consciousness or Krishna consciousness, like whatever you want to call it, you start to realize that like the way we play the game like does not have to be the way we play it.
Yeah.
But like so many people in this world are playing the game a certain way, and that's where their consciousness is. And some of them are bad, evil people, and some of them 100% think they're doing the right thing and are doing bad, evil things because they think it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And that is just where their consciousness is at, period. And they can't see like a bigger picture, like a bird's eye view picture of like, no, actually, you could just sit down and talk this out right now. Like, actually, that could happen. Like that, like the idea of like a quantum leap. Like there could be a quantum leap in how, you know, leaders deal with conflict or how people think about certain economic problems. Like there's enough information and enough smart people they actually down and could like do it. Stuff could get done, but it's really hard when there's so much lower consciousness running the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in like even really a derogatory way. It's just, it's the way I see things.
Yeah.
And, you know,
yeah,
maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it's the way I see things, you know, and I think that consciousness expansion is really, you know, it's not only, I think, one of the most like noble and enjoyable pursuits as an individual human, but I think it's, you know, it benefits your fellow man. And like, what's more beautiful than that, ultimately?
Yeah. Yeah. All being on the same playing field, just getting along. We all just got to get along. What's hard about that? All this conflict is just, I don't know. It's just trying to, what are you kind of trying to prove? I mean, yes, there's other shows and there's other episodes based on what we're really talking about and what we can get into. But that would get us kicked off of YouTube. Normally. So, yeah, there's other agendas out there that totally do not want us to be getting along. They do not want us to get along. That's the ultimate goal. But
right,
we know that's not the cosmic goal. That's not the universal goal. We got to get along. So we got to push against the wave. We got to push against this other wall that's barreling down against us.
Yeah.
But yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's so before we wrap up the show, again, where can people find you?
Yes, people can find me on my website, awakeningchandra.com. That's Chandra. And then also you can find me on Instagram at Awakening Chandra. I also have a Facebook page with the same name. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. And before we go, I let all our guests offer wise words of wisdom. What do you have as a takeaway?
Biggest takeaway, I suppose, would just be to stay curious. You know, I think that curiosity is such an integral part of the human experience. I think that being curious about ourselves, you know, is often a great place to start. You know, if you're listening to this and you're going through something in your life that's rough, you feel like you're repeating patterns, anywhere that we're meant to experience joy and live joy. And I believe that. And I think that anywhere where that's not the experience is a great place to be curious and just start to ask questions about, you know, why is my experience? And once you start to dig into that, it can be a Pandora's box and it can be scary. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of people don't want to do it. But there's a lot of people like me, you know, a lot of people that know what's on the other side and want to help with that process. And that's really what it comes down to, because growth isn't always fun and glamorous and sexy and like peak experiences, you know, and divine infinite love. It can be dark and shadowy and scary and having to deal with a lot of past trauma and just facing fears and places where you've let yourself down and having to come to grips with that. But it's worth it. It's worth it. So be curious and know that there's people out there that would love to support you because, like me, they genuinely know and believe that on the other side is like a better life, not only for you, but for the people around you. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's our natural state, is joy. Trying to get back to our natural state of joy. We can only be joyful every day. You know, people look at you all the time. You're like, what the heck's wrong with that person? That guy's too happy. That person's too happy. This person's too happy all the time. Why are they happy? What are they doing? What are they smoking? What are they on? Can I have some? Yes, right. As a matter of fact, you can. And you can go, you can get it too at your website, Awaken Chandra.
That's right. That's right.
Cool. Chelsea, namaste, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a fun conversation.
You are very welcome. Likewise. And welcome back anytime. And let us know when you get that book written.
I will. I will do that. Now I've said it. Now I've put it out there. So
there you go.
I've held my feet to the fire. I like it.
Yep. Get the universe and move in movement.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you next week.